Hello, hello, hello. It's it's been quite some time. I think it's been about 4 weeks, more or less, which I'm not too happy about because I've been trying my hardest to get around to doing this video, but I guess energy's been very low. I've been trying to focus on my recovery because I went through a phase where I was not getting much sleep at all, and it sort of caught up to me, and so I've been trying to focus on recovery and I'm trying to get as much sleep as I can, and it sort of eats into my time um, to do these videos. But today I managed to get myself up and get the energy and to just force myself to do this video because I feel like this video and going onwards, I feel like will be the crux of why I started this page, essentially. So we're on episode 8. Last episode 7, I was speaking about the first, second, and third time that I'd gone to prison, and I sort of just want to carry on from that and talk about the fourth time, which was the last time that I was in prison, and because I feel like that it's a very, very significant part of all of this, essentially, and it's very, very important for me to try to go as in depth as possible. So I'm gonna try to do this over maybe 2 or 3 episodes. But without further ado, let me just get straight into it. So 2021 March, I think it was, I was arrested and taken into custody for, I think I've been taken into custody several times, but to go to jail for the fourth time. And I'll be 100% honest, man. Initially, I just said whatever. I just thought, you know what I mean, whatever. But going back to jail, it's another stint in jail. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I didn't take the situation as seriously as I probably should have. And I thought I was gonna go in there, I'll kick the charge this time, and I'll be out in no time. That's the mindset that I sort of had. You know what I mean? It was all fuck the system and fuck the police and rah rah rah. I'm the victim and blah blah blah. And so here I am, back in jail. By this time, I'd sort of developed relationships and friendships with people, and so I came back in and it's just like old times, you know what I mean? Because this had been my life for so long, and so I was used to I saw a lot of familiar faces, and I was used to the routine, used to the environment, familiar with among the officers as well, so they sort of just left me alone to do my thing, you know what I mean? So I just got back to training, and all was well, you know what I mean? As every other time, I was just doing the time, you know what I mean? Just getting the time done, and yeah, time just started ticking. Time started ticking. I landed in a unit with a bunch of mates of mine. My mates got me into one of the better units, and so I was there. We were doing that thing. You know what I mean? Life was good. I couldn't complain whatsoever. And just smooth sailing, all smooth sailing. And then, as they say, all good things come to an end. And so I think it was a couple months where we were all together, where just shit hit the fan, and they had to split us all apart. And now we're all in separate units, you know what I mean, doing time sort of on our own, which was not, for me, it was not a big deal at all. I'm used to being on my own, you know what I mean, and so they're in a unit full of a bunch of randoms, you know what I mean, and when I say randoms, the majority of people are randoms. I know a few people here and there, but yeah, I'm just there doing the time, you know what I mean, and I think by this time, I don't know, we'll say a year had lapsed. And it was the case that I was involved in was starting to not look as good as I thought it was actually going to be. And I guess it slowly started to dawn on me that it was not going to, this was going to be different. This time was going to be different. And so I guess reality just started to dawn on me, and I began to look at things and take things a little bit more seriously. You know what I mean? Because I was with a bunch of dudes that were some of them were doing 10 years. I had a mate of mine who I became very, very close with. He was a few years into a 9-year sentence, I think it was, or I think it was a 9-year sentence. And so people all around me were having heavy sentences, and those were sort of the numbers I was looking at that time. And so it like began to sort of dawn on me. I'm like, okay, what have I fucking got myself into here? Um, and so I just started to think. I just started to question myself, question my behavior, question my thought processes, question my beliefs. And I remember this day vividly, quite vividly. I can't remember how far it was into my sentence, but or into my the time I'd been in. But I remember sitting there in the cell, and for the first time ever, because like it was clear to me, it's clear to me now that I definitely had some disempowering beliefs, and some very very disempowering values and disempowering just thought processes, right? But I never questioned them because I just thought that was the way I was, and that could not be changed, right? I didn't know that was an option, that I could just change those things. I remember one day sitting in the cell. It was at night. I'm laying there in bed. I can't remember. I don't think I was watching TV. I think I was just laying there looking at the roof, and I said to myself, like, what, like, why am I the way I am? Like, how, like, where did it all go wrong? And I remember asking myself that. I'm sitting there thinking. I'm just like, okay, well, why do I like taking drugs so much? You know what I mean? Because like I'm an athlete. Like my body is built to play sports. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't like something's not adding up. You know what I mean? And so and so I thought about that for a little bit, and it sort of took me back to like my home environment. And I was like, okay, well, I was trying to run away from my home. I was trying to run away from the reality at home because I never wanted to be at home. You know what I mean? I always wanted to be out in the streets, out and about, out with my friends. You know what I mean? I never wanted to be at home. You know. And so I was like, okay, well, okay. So obviously I'm trying to escape something. What am I trying to escape? And then I realized that like the environment at home didn't have a father, had a single mother. We grew up in poverty, grew up on the dole. Like life was very, very hard, you know what I mean? And then I listened to music and watch these rappers who have almost an unlimited amount of wealth from what we would see, from what we could see. And like that's what I wanted to be. That's what I wanted, like to not have to worry about. I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to be rich. You know what I mean? And like, and I guess in that process of wanting that, I sort of lost myself. You know what I mean? Because I chose an a disempowering way of trying to achieve it. You know what I mean? And in that process, I lost myself. You know. And so I said, okay. Well, first of all, regardless of how much I don't like that reality, that is my reality, and there's nothing I can do about that, right? Or like, there's nothing I can do about that reality, right now, right? And there's nothing I can do about the past. That was the way life was, and whatever. What I can do though is change my actions to hopefully better that reality. Now, I didn't come up with this thought process straight away. It was just recognizing that I was trying to escape my reality, right? And so I said, okay, so I'm trying to escape from home, trying to escape the reality that I have, trying to escape growing up broke, trying to escape losing, not being able to, uh, uh, not like losing so many opportunities in regards to sports and all that sort of stuff because we simply couldn't afford it. You know what I mean? And that stuff was like implanted in my subconscious. You know what I mean? And I had this like this mindset of like this poverty sort of stricken mindset. You know what I mean? Don't be poor, don't be poor, don't be poor. When you think about being poor, then you become poor, right? And not only financially, but like emotionally and spiritually as well, right? And so I said to myself, okay, well look, I need to if there's any way that I'm gonna break out of that, firstly I need to accept it. Right? I need to accept my reality. Like yes, I grew up poor because that's a part of who I am, regardless of how much I didn't want it. I didn't want that life, and I didn't choose that life for myself. That was it. That was the way I grew up. You know what I mean? I had to accept it, and so I guess that was the first step in the direction towards self help. I guess. Um, and so I began to just say to myself, like, this is the way I grew up. You know what I mean? There's no two ways about it. This is the way I grew up. This is my reality, and that's that. You know what I mean? And so I guess I began to look at it from a very very different perspective. You know what I mean? Instead of a poor me perspective, it's a more like, yeah, this is just the way I grew up. You know what I mean? Like, Um, like it's, I guess it's the hands that I was dealt, the cards that I was dealt, and that's it. You know what I mean? And then from there, I began to think, like, I was like, look, I don't want to use drugs anymore. I don't want to be that person anymore who like resorts to violence and who's hurting people, friends, family, like hurting all these people emotionally, physically, whatever, psychologically, just just being the absolute worst version of myself. I'm like, I don't want to be that person anymore. How can I become better? How can I become better? And it's crazy, right? Because what I realized now, and like slightly after that time period, that it's, I think there's a verse in the Bible. I don't know exactly where it is, but it says like, "Asking you shall receive, seeking you shall find, right? Knocking it shall be answered to you." And um, like, I'm not Christian myself, but I definitely do take things from the scripture. And so I said I wanted to become better. How can I become better? I started to ask myself that question. How can I become better? And I guess, and God answered that question. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't take too long, and I bumped into. Oh no! So there was I was doing a training session one day, and I'll wrap this up real quickly. I don't want to go too deep into this, but this will sort of be the end of this first episode. But I was training with these dudes one day, and we were training, and like, I never ever ever usually, I'll never leave halfway through a session, never. But this one day we're training in this tennis court, and they called the library over the speaker. I remember hearing the library get called, and I don't know what it was, but something inside me just said, "Go to the library." And like, mind you, I never ever at this point, at this point, I'd never ever gone to the library. Like, I don't go to the library at all, right? But something said, "Go to the library." I was like, okay, whatever. So I said, boys, I'm gonna, like, and I love training. I'm like, believe me when I tell you, I will never ever leave a training session. I will never ever, right? Something like has to fucking drag me out of there. You know what I mean? For me to leave that training session. But, anyways, somebody just said, leave the session, go to the library. I was like, alright, whatever. So I packed my shit up, went to the library, and go to the library. I don't even know what I was looking for. I actually do not know what I was looking for. But then I'm just walking up and down. First, I was in the music section, walking up and down the music aisle, because at this point, like, so when I came in, like, I was someone who struggled with talking about their emotions a lot, and so I used music to sort of express myself, and through this, by expressing myself lyrically in a way that I enjoyed, it sort of helped me become better at expressing myself. But anyways, so I'm walking up and down the music aisle. There was nothing interesting there. Then I walked down up and down the art aisle, nothing there. And then something just led me towards the self-help aisle. I'm looking at these books. I would have been there like half an hour by now, like 40 minutes, and I'm just like, nah, there's nothing here, nothing here. And I've walk towards the door, and then the officers are like, nah, it's muster, so you can't leave. So muster's like when they count everyone up, and so they said you can't leave. So I've gone back in, and so I'm in that same aisle. I don't know what sent me there, but I'm in that same aisle. And then there was another aisle in the corner, and I can't even remember what's it called, what the name of the aisle was, or like what the books were. But like, there was a red book. It was all these like sort of I'll just say like plain colored books, and there was a red book that just stood out. And red's my favorite color. I don't know if there's like a some correlation between all this, but it's a red book. It was a small book too, and I don't know, but like my mind just gravitated towards it, and I've gone and I've picked it up. And the book said, "How to Get a Bigger Bite Out of Life." And I remember like looking at the front of that book, and I'm like, "Fuck, I want a bigger bite out of life," you know. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take this book, and I don't even open it. So I've gone, bang, ordered the book out. I've gone back to residential, and I take it back to my room. Didn't even open it. I put it on my shelf. Didn't open it. And then let's go back to living my life, training, blah blah blah, all that sort of stuff. Maybe a few weeks later, I got sent to a different unit. I was sent to the other side of the jail. I took that book with me, so I'm in this other unit now, and in this unit, and I've had this book now probably like 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks, and still haven't even opened it. And one day, I'm just bored. I don't know if we were locked down or something, but I was just bored, and I'm like, I'll open this book and see what it's about. You know what I mean? So bang, open the book, and I remember the first thing that said in the book was you should write everything out instead of just reading it. Write it all out so you can absorb it. And so I was like, all right, I'll follow. I'll abide by that. And man, I remember like this book was probably the beginning of the end, or the end of the old me and the beginning of the new me, because this book like just showed me that, first of all, so this book, How to Get a Bigger Bite Out of Life, is like an amateur's introduction to NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, right? And so NLP is like the programming and the thoughts that we have in our mind, the programs that we have in our mind that lead us to certain behaviors and actions, right? And so up until that point, I didn't know that like our minds are based off programs, like run off programs, right? And so I thought I was just living like randomly, right? Thought would come up and I'd just follow that thought, you know what I mean? But like I didn't know that like this is thought processes that had been conditioned into me through my behaviors and through my thoughts. So that being said, this book, so there was a page towards the end of the book, right, that said that be careful of your thoughts, because your thoughts create your actions. Be careful of your thoughts, because your thoughts turn into your words turn into your actions turn into your habits, and your habits turn into your destiny. Something along those lines. But I guess that part, was the gist of the whole book, right? And I read this book and it just blew me away. You know what I mean? It just blew me away. And then, interestingly enough, I was in that unit like a few days later. Literally a few days later, a guy walks into the unit, and I'll leave his name out of this just for his own privacy, you know. But he was he seemed like a cool dude, and like a few days had gone past, we didn't really talk to each other. But one day I was cutting laps up and down the yard, and he came out, and I just went to introduce myself. I was like, "Hey man, like how you doing?" He goes, "Yeah, cool man." And we just started talking. Introduce each other. We're talking. And then like I was sort of just he was telling me about his life, and I was telling him about my life, and how I've been to jail 4 times, I was 21 years old, and spent all this time in jail, and And I'm like, man, like I really want to stop, you know what I mean? Like I'm done with all this stuff, you know? And he goes, yeah, bro, I've got a book. I think you might like it. And he gave me the book Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. And that book, I thought this book, How to Get a Bigger Bite Out of Life, was great. This book, if that book was great, this Tony Robbins book, Unlimited Power, was phenomenal, exceptional, superb, and every other fucking word along those lines. Because this book in itself, after reading this book, like this is where I realized how much power the mind actually has. So look, I'm gonna leave it at that for now. I'm gonna try my hardest to come back next week. If not, it'll be the week after. I'm gonna just force myself to do it. But the ball's getting rolling now. Tap in, fools. Let's go.